there's a real distinction between directors and doers. So a director is someone who is directing the work. They're coming up with the idea, and the doer is the person who's doing the work. AI is really good at the middle to the middle, but not the start to the end. So you think about a founder starts something with an idea and they say, I take accountability for getting this into the world. And then the exit, it's time to exit, it's time to sell it, it's time to package this up and get out of it, right? So that's the start and the end. AI is really good on all things, provided someone human says, I'm going to initiate a prompt or I'm going to initiate some sort of activity. AI then goes, oh, I know what you want me to do. So I'll do all that. And then the human says, cool, here's what I want to do next. Right? So start and the end. So normally in a business, you would call that person the director. The director is the person who comes up with the idea. Okay, we're going to do this plan. We're going to get this. We're going to get these experts to come in and do this. We're going to get these employees to come in and do this. That's the role of the director. And then the doers are the people who come in and do the work. Another way of thinking about this would be the conductor versus the musicians. We all need to now learn how to be more of a director or a conductor as opposed to a doer or a musician, because it's now the people who are directing the work who are good at that are going to be able to do a lot more. And what's cool about these 20-year-olds is they kind of get it. They're like, oh yeah, because they've grown up with it and they're starting to sort of like, it's in the fiber of their bones. And they're saying, oh, I just need to come up with ideas and then get AI agents to help me to execute those ideas. So I need to be the initiator and the completer, but there's that middle part that can just be done for me, which used to cost hundreds of thousands of dollars to get someone to do that, and I can just do that for $10 or less. The world, let's zoom right out. The economy 250 years ago was a land-based economy, and we had the feudal system and we had the colonial system. Those were our two political systems, and it was about land ownership. On your own land in Western Europe, it was the feudal system, which was kings and lords. And then on other people's lands, it was colonial system, which is colonizing other people's land. And that was when the economy was based very much on land, those were the two systems that emerged. And we had mostly serfs and peasants, and then the elite kings, queens, and all of that sort of stuff. And that was like thousands of years. And then a technological change, it was technology that came along, and technology came and shifted things into the industrial age. And the land-based economy went around the 1750s. It started dropping away. And all those people who owned land, it wasn't so important anymore. And the industrial economy started to accelerate up. And in the early 1800s, in the UK especially, we had the early industrialization, where it didn't matter if you owned lots of land, it mattered that you owned a factory. And that you could basically, this was labor and capital. So you now needed lots of labor and lots of capital being machinery and factories and all that sort of stuff. And basically a new economy was born. And you would basically say there's an old economy, which was this, and then there's the industrialized economy. Alongside that industrialized economy, we built schools, we changed the nature of universities and education. We built something called wages. Now, wages never existed prior to the industrial age. The idea that you would do an average day's work, an average month, and get an average amount of pay, and that everyone got paid the same, and pretty much everyone was roughly paid the same, that's a very, very new idea. That kind of popped up in the 1850s. Prior to that, people got paid for tasks. They got paid to produce something. They got paid to deliver something or do something. But everything was outcome-based, delivery-based, right? Very, 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 very few people just got fixed wages prior to the 1850s. So we created factories and offices, and we created all these systems that are perfectly aligned to factories and offices. But that system has come crashing down at the late 1900s, early 2000s. And then the digital system's been taking off. So if we were to zoom right out on the long history of humanity, we would see the rise and fall of the agricultural age, right, the land-based economy, the rise and fall of the industrial age, the labor and capital economy, and then the rise of the digital age, which is the enterprise economy. So classical economists, they say the four things that give you a moat is land, labor, capital, enterprise. So land, labor and capital, and we fought wars over socialism, capitalism, and then enterprise, entrepreneurialism. And so we're now moving into the entrepreneurialism economy, which is underpinned by all the digital stuff. And so much of our lives that we just take for granted right now, we don't realize it, but that was all built to go with the hand in hand with the industrial age. And now that's coming to an end. Everything's going to change as we enter this new age.
And I suppose whichever one of those stages we could go to, as one age is closing down for another one to start, they probably thought this is the end of the world. This is the machines come along in the industrial age and they go, that's it. Humans are going to be out on the streets, nothing to do.
They did think that.
And then nowadays, I think there's a similar kind of thought process that if we're replaced is the term, and I'm trying to explain to my parents last night, I say trying, I think the generational gap is very difficult for them to understand. And I was trying to say to my dad, I think that he worked in logistics his whole life. I thought truck drivers, I can imagine, will be some of the first to go because of other things like night shifts, long periods of driving, accidents, falling asleep at the wheel. Not to mention, I think that for humanity, just diminishing the amount of people that need to be awake at night would be a great thing. Then I was trying to explain that maybe my dad thinks 50 years. I said, maybe in 10 years, we're going to start looking at people driving their own cars as being a stupid thing. Traffic algorithms, safety, prevalence of drink driving incidents, whatever. The amount of people that make a living from driving people, we're going to soon look back and go, that's crazy. Can you remember back in the day when you used to have to drive somewhere? And we suddenly think that these people are just going to be left on a universal credit system or they're going to be sponged on the state. But really what you're saying is we're going to go from, let's say, crude numbers, 1,000 companies with 1,000 members of staff to maybe 100,000 companies with a very lean 10-man team. And each one of those is going to be responsible for AI agents. And that person who could have traditionally grown up to being a black cab driver or a truck driver is now actually going to find their way to utilize their skills in a completely different realm. It mostly being online, digital, and the utilization of AI. People aren't going to be displaced. They're going to be working in different avenues.
And they're going to be working in very, very different ways. So there was a particular way of working on the land. So there's a lot of similarities between AI and farming. So in farming, you plant a seed and you sit back and wait, and God does the work. And basically, out comes wheat, and you just don't know how the hell that happens. And you're sitting there looking at it and go, I just prompted the soil, and then out came the wheat, and I just waited, and then the value creation was all done automatically. So we had widespread automation during farming that essentially artificial intelligence, with what we call God force, was creating all the value. And our job was just to prompt the soil and harvest the results. So we did the start and the end, right? So the planting and the harvesting, but all the middle bit was automated through a technology called soil. And that was that whole system, and it gave rise to a particular way of working and living. When we go over here, we're going to have the same sort of thing. We're going to plant and harvest. We're going to prompt the digital soil and harvest the digital fruit off the back of it. We're going to have very, very different ways of working. So in the short term, there's going to be a lot of disruption. And I'll give you exactly what's going to happen. In a current house in the UK, if you were to take all the homes, let's say in the UK, there's money entering those homes, right? So every month there's money coming into those homes. As it currently stands, 60% of the money going into UK homes comes from wages. That's a fixed amount of money for a fixed average amount of time, and it doesn't matter whether you have a good month or a bad month, you get the same, and you kind of go from junior to senior over the course of decades, and the money just kind of slightly changes. So that wages, as we know, it represents 60%. Then there's 15% of money entering homes as government benefits. 15% of money entering homes is what you'd call performance money. Performance money is sales, entrepreneurship, profits from businesses that you run. So it's like you're essentially doing stuff and getting outcomes, and that drives the money. And then there's 10%, which is coming from assets that yield. So you own houses and they pay rent, or you own shares and they pay you a dividend. So that's how the pie looks currently. I think what will happen is wages will drop from 60% to 30%. So I think wages are going to go away. I don't think they're going to go completely away, and it's not going to happen overnight, but they definitely, over 5 to 10 years, wages are going to start dropping precipitously. The number of people who can say they've got a good wage that pays the bills. And that's going to split. 15% of those people, half the people who are displaced are going to need government benefits. They're going to say, okay, I don't know how to handle this, so just pay me money. I'll go on to basic universal credit or whatever. And then the other half go, oh, wait a second, this entrepreneurship thing, I can actually do groups and loops, and I can start stuff, and I can have plural projects on the go. So I'll go up to the performance zone, and I'm going to build digital assets that are high performance digital assets, and I can have podcasts and videos and social media accounts. We can write a book, and we can launch a can of drink, and right, it's all going on up here. the government is going to freak out not knowing how to pay for all the people who drop down onto universal basic income and credit and all that sort of stuff and benefits. So they're going to go and attack those who own traditional assets, try to steal all that through wealth taxes. And those wealth taxes are going to go towards paying for this short-term transition. And then all the people up here who are performance assets, they're going to realize that they can do that from anywhere in the world, and that as the governments become grabby, they're going to move to low-tax environments like Dubai and Miami, or Switzerland or Singapore, or these Bahrain. They're going to go and find places or pockets around the world that cater to these high-performance digital asset providers. So straight away, we're going to see this disruption as these groups move around. Some leave the country, some stay, they restructure overseas. These people who had good jobs, they go down here to benefits. These people who had traditional assets in their pension, they get pillaged, right? So all that's going to happen in the next sort of 10 years.